Okay, go ahead. Ali, you can go ahead now.
Oh, sorry, give me just 1 second.
Stream started. Okay. This is where we can promote any products that you guys sell. Just kidding.
So is it ready?
Yeah, the stream has started. Yeah.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So, Masha Allah, with the blessing of God, we are here to attend another Quran study. It's absolutely a blessing of God that He allowed us to be here, and we need to be thankful to God. Inshallah, read from Surah number 56 down to the, I think it's verse 57. I seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. So the verse 57 starts from the heading says reflections, and then God says, "We have created you."
Just 1 second. I didn't finish the Surah Inevitable 56. Some part of it was left.
Yeah, he's reading from 56, 57, right?
Oh, okay. I thought starting 57 Surah. I'm sorry, my bad.
So, seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. So the verse 57 says, "We have created you. If you could only believe. Have you noted the semen that you produce? Did you create it, or did we? We have predetermined death for you. Nothing can stop us from establishing new generations in your place and establishing what you do not know." So, if it's a pretty awesome surah. In the beginning, God is talking about the three groups and talking about the hell, lower heaven, and the higher heaven. And here, God is talking about that reflect on what you see. Different things I mentioned here, and it's just someone to look around and see what's going on. Uh, we have created you if you could only believe. See, it's a lack of belief that is one of the main problem. That if you believe in something, that something is going to happen. That belief, it's like a force that will drive you to do that. Uh, as a psychology says that belief is one of, they ask so many people a question that what do you think the most important thing in the world is, and many people say money and other things. They say no, the belief. If you are an older age, even though no matter how much money you have, money is not concern for you, but belief at every level, people will do anything for belief. People will die for belief. So that is so important. And we don't have that belief, because if we have belief and somebody can die for it, and here, if you have a belief that God is the one doing everything, then you will come into submission wholeheartedly, and that is the main problem. Most of the time, we almost everybody pretty much believe that God is the one have done everything. He's the one creator. But why do we believe that? Because this is what is told to us from our parents. This is what we everybody's been telling us. God is the one creator, and but we never reflect. See, for example, if I tell you, if you don't know anything about a car, what a car does, and you never seen a car before, and I can tell you anything about it, but you may believe it, but it will not settle in your heart until you experience what car can do for you. All these things that you learn from a car, then genuinely it's going to settle in your heart. So why? And that is one of the reasons God is reflecting on many of the things in the Quran for us to reflect that what God is doing. And that will uh, put belief in our heart naturally. So I think somebody's mic is on. Okay. So then God said, have you noted the semen that you produce? I mean, we know that semen is the cause of the next generation. This is what initiated us in this earth. So then God said, did you create it or did we? I mean, this is something to ponder upon. Forget about everything that we have in this world, all the accomplishments or whatever we do in this world. God is taking us back to the very basic thing that started our existing on the earth. I mean, not even talking about the previous life on this earth from a tiny drop. That's that's what we from that point we came into existence. And God is saying, even that part, did you create it or God is the one creating it? And if we can understand even that basics of our existence, that will in itself will kill our ego. I mean, there's we what could possibly be proud of? We have nothing to be proud about because in that sense we didn't do anything. And then it's like a question, what is feeding our ego, that I am this and I am that. God is taking us back to the basics, the Siemens, that and then God is saying that we have predetermined death for you, nothing can stop us. As we know that the time of death is set. uh, I mean, there's nothing can change it. As we come to this world holding a timer, when you want to do something, you put a timer on it. Like when the new year comes, there's a clock that ticking backward, and then until the day of, and New Year Eve. I mean the morning, and then it's the next year. It's similar to that. We are holding a timer in our hand that we cannot see how much time is left. It's ticking backward. When it reaches zero, that's when the sequence starts of the death, and God is going to talk more about that. I mean, it's a very straightforward verses. Nobody can deny these verses. This is even though somebody who believe or not believe, this is what it is. I mean, you see the life cycle and everything. There's nothing to be denied about. Only thing to ponder upon how this is happening. And then God is saying that nothing can stop us from substituting new generation in your place. So how see beautifully God has synchronized this is what causes the life cycle, and who created it, and that is the source of the next generation. And then on our place, uh, and then God says, and establishing what you do not know. The new generation, as we know, they're smarter than on the previous generation, and they know more. They have more knowledge. We can see about science in this generation. Every generation has better things. They invent new things. They learn a lot more than previous. That's why we see even in schools and other places, when the new syllabus comes, they have added more things into it because they learn more. Every year, every day, we discover new things. So they know more than the previous generation simply. But what is all that knowledge is going to do if the basic knowledge is not there? Why God is telling us to reflect on everything? When you can be as smart as anybody can be, but if you are not smart to understand what God's message is, then everything is in vain. Well, I mean, God says there's one place when you reach the older age and you see that only so much knowledge can be attained. That's the true reality of this world. MashaAllah. And then let's go to the next part. And they're all connected, all these verses. God said, you know about the first creation. Do you not remember? Have you noted the crops you reap? Did you grow them or did we? If we will, we can turn it to hay. They will then lament. We lost, we are deprived. So the first creation, and it's trying to look into the other part of the Quran. That first creation, uh, like even though coming to this world is we are created, it looks like first creation, but I think it's when we are originally created in the heavens. And then God is asking a question: do you not remember? We remember. We know that. Uh, like I was talking to somebody who's like almost atheist the other day, and doesn't believe in anything. But as we know that, as I try to explain to this person that we have lived a life before, and this person is like saying, what am I doing in this world? I didn't choose to be here. I mean, and I say, if this is not my choice, then I must be, if there's a heaven, I'm going to go to heaven, because I'm going to tell God that I did not choose to come here. So you put me in this world, and that's your choice. So I don't deserve to go to hell. I said, you have no idea what you're talking about. We have the knowledge, we have the information why we are here. And so basically got in a simple question asking that, do you not remember, how when even a baby is born, I mean, how far back you can go in your life where you remember the things, maybe at the age of toddler we start remembering a little bit things that we did, but even going back to 1 year old, we don't remember anything. We don't remember our birth. Our brain's not mature enough. So we come to this world just clean disk, nothing on it, and then God gave us a chance to start. And this is where God is asking that you pretend to be so much knowledgeable. You know that you have a lot of knowledge. You know this and that. You become atheist, or you become like scientific person, or I know this, I know that. You start blaspheming things, and you're blundering in disbelief that I know this, I know that. And God is telling you, do you even remember yourself? Do you not remember? What I mean, forget about this world. Do you remember where you even come from? And they have no answer for that. This is a very simple, I mean, straightforward question. And then God is taking us back that the food that we eat, have you noted all that food cycle where it comes from? The crops. Did you make all this? Did you grow all that? As we know that we put seed, fertilizer, water, and with sun we get food. Yeah. Where does the seed come from? Where does the fertilizer come from? Who made the water? Who made the sun? And we say that I worked so hard on this agriculture, or grew all this stuff. I day and night, I this and that. We forget basic things. If you didn't have seed, what are you going to do? If you don't have fertilizer, if you don't have water, can you make your own water? Can you initiate your own sun to grow the crops? And forget, and not even to mention the, think about all the micro level, and the seed, the how it develops at the cellular level, the how it start dividing in the you put in the ground, and the root, and the plant starts coming, the leaves and everything, and start growing right away. I mean all that stuff happening, who's doing all that? We just put the seed and water, and we think that we did a lot of work. I mean, basically our work is a 0%, and God is doing the 100% of everything. These are basic things. I mean, if you can pretty much sit down and do the math, how much I did and how much work is done by someone else, and then someone else God. And if any of the chain link is pulled out, we cannot. If this, suppose, is always nighttime, we cannot grow anything. Or if there's no water, if one thing is pulled out, we cannot do anything. And these are the basics of our existence. uh, and then God say, if you will, we can turn into hay, then you will laminate. I mean, how many times you try to grow something, and it doesn't grow? We did everything possible, and sometimes it doesn't work. I mean, these are the signs for us that what we do and what God does. And if God wanted, if you spend 2 3 months growing all that crops and everything, and all of a sudden the thing that it requires, like water, to grow, if there's a flood comes in so much, it can destroy your whole crops. The wind, the air that it required to grow the crops, if there's a tornado or some windstorm, it can destroy your crops. I mean, things, the sun, if like we had a lot of agriculture that has been destroyed by too much sun, like heat wave comes in and destroys crops. Things that is required can in itself can destroy. God doesn't need to create something from to destroy something. What we use, that can even do that. So these are the ponder for us to ponder upon. And then you say we lost, and they say we are deprived. There was a story of one place. There was this brothers, and they were so happy in the morning. They got up, it's in the Quran, I'm paraphrasing, that they're going to have all this food, and they're happy they're going to be rich. And they're walking, and when they got to the farm, and it was all destroyed. And one of the persons said, had we say God willing, this should not have happened. So if you believe in God and if you obey God, none of that will happen. First of all, you will not suffer any kind of loss or anything. These are things for us to ponder upon, that if you follow one by one all these verses, then this is for us to understand. Maybe you lose one time, but if you are one of the fortunate one to take a heed of this, of your negative experience, that would be awesome. I mean, in this world, if you have experience in something you didn't know, and you suffer a loss in something, you know now then not to repeat that mistake. And most of the time we don't repeat that mistake. I mean, if somebody does it first time, and how we say, fool me once, shame on you; fool me twice, shame on me, because I didn't learn. And the same formula is God is teaching. If you suffer anything, why don't you take heed? Why you keep repeating the same mistake over and over? Why you keep suffering loss over loss over loss, but not looking back and looking at your mistakes, or even at least try it? Surah 22, God is challenging. I think it's verse number 15 or 16. At least accept the challenge, and not even doing that. And we lost and we are deprived. This is not the loss, the losing of crops, the loss of soul, and the soul that's deprived of God's light and not able to grow. That is the loss. I mean, that loss cannot be counted. I mean, you cannot imagine what a great loss is. One nutshell, God says, the earth treasure times two with gold and all that is gonna be not accepted by God to on the day of judgment. Somebody will come in who will lost on the day of judgment, and earth times two, it will readily give it away, but it will be rejected. No. So that is the price. On the very basics, you can understand how that loss is. And then God is saying that, have you noted the water you drink? Did you send it down from the clouds, or did we? If we will, we can make it salty. You should be thankful. Have you noted the fire you ignite? Did you initiate its tree, or did we? We rendered a reminder and a useful tool for others, a useful tool for the users. You shall glorify the name of your Lord the Great. And now God talked about the food, and in just one, in way, all the agriculture, we know that it's the source of our food. All the livestock, they depend on it, and then what else we need? The water. So God is telling us that, okay, think about the water that you get to drink, or any other needs we have. Who sent it down from the clouds? And we have talked a lot about the rain cycle, and how awesome the rain cycle is. God's talking about many places. We send down the water, and somebody might, this is the same person was telling me that why God is repeating one thing over and over and over again. I said, because that's how bad we are. We need to be reminded over and over, because if one time God mentioned it, we may even just look at one time and walk away. So God remind us over and over and over. So it builds important on that subject, that how important that we need to understand. Like if you send your children to college, or you send somewhere where there's a lot of problem, there's going to be problem in some part of the country, in the world somewhere, and there's like shoplifting, or people can steal your money, or things like that. So you will tell your children, not just one time, you will warn them over and over, like, you're going to this there, be careful with this, be careful with that. Not just one time, many times. So God sent us in this world. So similar way, God is telling us over and over, be careful with this, be careful with that, again and again and again and again, so that we may take heed on that. If you tell somebody just one time, oh, when you land over there, just watch your money, the person might not even take that important in that. But you tell them, hey, you sit down with that person, over and over. So tomorrow you are going to make sure you watch this, you make sure you watch that. And this person's like, yeah, you told me that. No, I'm telling you again how important that is. Do this, do this, do this. So that way this person will genuinely become like, okay, I really need to pay attention. So that's why God is telling us all these verses again and again, that we appreciate God's blessing, how important water is. Without water, life will not exist. And who's bringing the water from the clouds? We see in the last I think one of the Quran studies that I think it was like 1 inch of rain, and how many millions of gallons of water comes from the in certain acre. And who's holding that water? There's not like a container up in the clouds that's holding that water. The water is in clouds. I mean, you go through the planes go through the cloud. It's not something a solid object, as like when you're coming for land, and suppose there's a rain and you can see the dark clouds and the plane goes right through it. Isn't that something? But how amazing that is, that these clouds, which there's no dense water in it, it's just vapors, but there's contain so much water that they can flood the area. If you ever, well, now we have apps that you can see the weather. It shows you the weather and where the clouds are going, and if you play the sequence of where the clouds are coming, and it will actually show you the clouds come from the ocean side, and it covers like maybe 5,000 miles in one direction, and then how wide that the area is, and the waters keep falling, 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 falling. I mean, it, to all the way to the mountain sometimes. I mean, how much water that is. I mean, these are things to us to ponder, how awesome God's system is. And then God says that if we will, we can make it salty. As we know, the water, if the rain that we get, it comes from the ocean, and oceans are abundant in salt. And so if when the evaporation happens with the sunlight, what if the salt is also evaporated with the water, and then we have a salty rain, and that's not going to do any good. Now we have water, but it's salt in it. What are we going to do with that? So this thing, then what is God is saying here? You should be thankful. Being thankful to God is the key for us. That ponder upon the blessings and understanding. And I mean, every time you take a sip of water, we should appreciate the blessing, that how important that is. Like sometime when especially when you do fasting and you have been working all day, and by the afternoon, if you have a day job, how hungry you will feel, that things will appreciate you, food and water and everything. Then God is then saying the fire. See how one by one, food, water, fire. God said, if you didn't have fire, imagine that. I mean, how would you cook your food? How would you all these things? And somebody who's like who mock, that's his business to make fun of God's revelation, might say that, oh well, I don't need fire, I can use the electric stove or things like that. All these things, even though electric and everything comes from God's resources, we did not create all this. If you go back even in the electric, how the electric is generated, with the wind or sun, solar energy, or the coal or any other things, these all things came from one source. The natural gas, I was looking where the natural gas comes from. If somewhere saying on the line that it's from the tree that they if I see, I will show you that the tree that it generates from the tree, the sunlight and all that, the process of gases. That's how we get the natural gas. The coal, all the carbon and everything deposit in the earth from long time ago. The gasoline that we get, the millions of years ago, the trees, they with earthquake or something, they went inside the ground, and that's how we have. This is what science says, that this is how we get all the gasoline and everything. So everything coming from God, basically. You want to mock, you can mock, but the truth of the matter is, yourself, you didn't even create your own semen. You came from somebody else's semen, and this is the hardcore reality. So make fun as much you want, but the day of resurrection, everything will be presented to us. Masha Allah. And have you noted fire? So, and then God is saying, who initiated its tree? We know that as we talked about the natural gas, and in the old times they use wood to cook and all that. Everything comes from all these basic elements. And God is saying, did you initiate its tree, or did we? Something to ponder upon. When we render it a reminder and useful tool for others. So you see the word reminder, again, you have knowledge, you understand, you accept it. That ongoing reminder is important, because we are forgetful creature. We forget, we forget somebody gave us a favor. We forget. Yeah. I think right here is the energy that the plants, this is from the online, the energy that the plants originally obtain from the sun is stored in the form of chemical bonds in the gas. The natural gas is a non-renewable hydrocarbon used as a source of energy for heating, cooking, and electric generation. See right here, this is science is talking. So the source is from the tree, no matter what you make fun of it or not. But so all this is knowledge is for us to understand, accept, an ongoing reminder, so that we don't forget that. And then God is saying that and it's a useful tool for the users. As we know, the tree, we have a lot of uses. We use the tree in construction. We make furniture with it. We make tools with it. All kind of handy tools. You have a saw or anything. Everything is pretty much you use wood in it, and many other applications of wood we have, and many other. Nowadays, even more, you have tiles and all that stuff made out of wood. And then you shall glorify the name of your Lord, the Great. See, when you A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then you do the alphabets, this is where the punchline comes. You shall glorify the name of your Lord, the Great, because when you understand all this, at that time when you glorify God, it brings a lot of emotion into your glorification. You don't just sit down and start glorifying God. When you ponder upon God's blessing, that's the difference between an example that we talked about, the car. If you don't know about the car, what it does, never seen a car before, you may glorify a car. A car is an awesome creation. But when you sit inside, somebody tells you, okay, I'll take you for a ride. And you sit in the car and you listen to music and you're like, what's happening? I'm moving. I mean, that's just a basic example. Now you can understand the feeling. So when you ponder upon God's blessings, that naturally gives you in your heart, it'll give you love to God. Your acceptance, submission it'll have a different meaning, genuine meaning in it. When you say thanks to God, it has feeling in it. When you say I love you to God, it has feeling in it. You have emotions in it, and that's the beauty of all that, mashallah. And here God talked about the heaven, hell, the higher heaven, lower heaven, and ponder the things. And have you become sincere or not? And this is where it kicks in, that only the sincere can understand the Quran. MashaAllah, how beautifully God has designed this surah. I swear by the positions of the stars. This is an oath. If you only knew, that is awesome. And the footnote says, our universe, the smallest and innermost of 7 universes, contains a billion galaxies, a billion trillion stars, spanning billions of light years. These unaccountable decillions of heavenly bodies maintain their orbits in a divine controlled precision. The more we learn, see here the word, the more we learn, the more we realize how awesome this oath is. And you can read more about Appendix 6. And then God continues that this is an honorable Quran. So this is going for the oath. God is swearing by the stars, and God is taking an oath about the stars, because God is the one who created all that. And then God is saying, if you only knew that how awesome that the swear and the oath is, that this is an honorable Quran, uh, in a protected book. None can grasp it except the sincere. And then the footnote for verse number 79 is the insincere who are not satisfied with the Quran alone are divinely prevented from understanding the Quran. This concept is repeated throughout the Quran, and these 2 verses, and inshallah we'll talk about these verses. Consequently, they cannot understand this verse. For example, compare the translation of these verses 73, 1746, 4144, and 5679 with other translations that have the traditional Islam has translated, and you will come to understand all this phenomena, that the sincere can only understand the Quran. Sincere who are happy with God, who accept God wholeheartedly alone. They don't, this is the core of our salat. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. You alone we worship, you alone we ask for help. If you have anybody else next to God, then you're not sincere with God. Your sincerity is come. You can say whatever you want. I am sincere. I'm saying your actions will show whether you are sincere or not. And God, who knows the best than other than God? No one. Even yourself, you may fool yourself your whole life, but God knows who you're sincere with. We only come to find out when our time reaches the end, and we can never understand all this. We last to a Quran study, we talked about how the moon, I think it was one of the last one, the moon is how going around the earth, and it's not spinning on its orbit. That's just one small example, and it's like kind of locked on you, like looking at you. So you see one side. If the moon was spinning with just very little motion, over several hundred years, it will come. You will see the other side. But the science says that we only see one side. How balance the calculation of it is going around the Earth roughly 28, 29 days, and at the same time, the orbit is just one circle, very precise. And we know that how many trillions there are, like science says that roughly 300 billion stars just in our own galaxy. The messenger of the covenant said that there's roughly 100 billion people will come to this earth for the test. 100 billion. And we have 100 billion people coming, and there are 300 billion stars just in our galaxy. So there's three stars for each person that came to this earth. Each person has three stars, and each star has on average maybe 5 6 planets around themselves. So just imagine, just in our own galaxy, there are far more heavenly bodies than the people coming to this world. And then now the science is that there's like 10 trillion galaxies around just the inner universe that we are in, and then there's 7 layers on the outside. Just imagine the greatness of God, that for something to ponder upon. Sometimes we see on the YouTube, we see like, oh, this video has 10 million views. We get, wow, 10 million. There are some videos have 4 or 5 billion views. That's just somebody clicking on the link. It adds to the how many views. 4 or 5 billions. There are 300 billion stars in our galaxy. I mean, all the people cannot even click enough to get the rating for a YouTube video. Here, the most gracious has created 300 billion stars with just in our galaxy, and how many heavenly bodies. And we haven't even understand the concept of the black hole, the center of the universe, the galaxy that's holding all these heavenly bodies. And when you get out of it, there's 10 trillion galaxies, and then you get out of it, there's layers upon layers, something to point. And that is the story God is talking about, that this is an honorable Quran. If you can only understand it, and if you object to Quran's any of the verse, then you're not sincere. It will easily, actually, if you're really honest, it will just really easily point out God saying my book is complete and fully detailed. And if you object, then you're saying, no, God, what are you talking about? This is wrong. Then this whole thing becomes wrong if you say something is not there, and then you're out of the sincerity part, and then you are barred from the understanding. I'm just going to read some of the verses the Message of the Covenant has noted here. 7:3, you shall, surah number 7, verse number 3, you shall all follow what is revealed to you from your Lord. Do not follow any idols beside him. Really do you take heed. And we know, and if you read this surah, God is talking about the Quran that is revealed to us, and do not follow anything else. And that is gonna, if you do that, you are in that sincerity. Then verse 1745 says, when you read the Quran, we place between you and those who do not believe in the hereafter an invisible barrier. I mean, very straightforward. You can say all you want that I believe in the hereafter and everything, but your action will prove it to you. Like, how anytime you go for an interview, or you do say I can do that, I'm expert in this. Like, for example, typing this, I can type 40 words. Okay, here the typewriter, type 40 words per minute. So when you say something, then God is going to test you. You say, I believe in hereafter. God will put you through a test, and if you fail, then this is where everything. And then for verse 46, surah 17:46 said, we place shield around their minds to prevent them from understanding it, and deafness in their ears. And when you preach your Lord using the Quran alone, they run away in inversion. Quran alone, even if you look at the Arabic word, it's Bahdahu Quran. It came right next to the Quran. Wahdahu. It does not talk about God. It talks about the Wahdahu. Wahdahu means one alone, the Quran. very I mean, if you cannot take Quran alone, then you're out of this class of God. And was Surah 41, 44. I'll just read this highlight area. For those who believe, it is a guidance and healing. As for those who disbelieve, they will be deaf and blind to it, as if they are being addressed from far away. And you can read this one, 57. The same similar thing is repeated here. Now let's go inshallah on verse number 80. And God is continuing about the Quran, a revelation from the Lord of the universe. Are you disregarding this narration? Do you make it your business that you disbelieve? When the time comes and it is your soul reaches your throat, you will then look around. We are closer to it than you are, but you do not see. If it is true that you do not owe any accounting, why do you not restore your soul if you are truthful? So God is saying that this is the revelation from the Lord of the universe. That's the oath that God is telling us, enforcing that if you don't believe, how if somebody, like when you want to strengthen our statement, we say, I swear by this, I swear by that. All this kind of things that we can use to make someone believe. So in a way, God is saying all this. God did not have to do that. I mean, how this is where you learn the graciousness, the mercy of God is how teaching us in a basic human level, you know, to understand that how awesome that is. God can just say, my book is awesome, believe it or lose it, take it or lose it, and that's it. And it'll be upon us. He is teaching us, he's convincing us, he's giving all the signs, the water, the rain, everything could possibly over and over and over, so that we can accept the Quran wholeheartedly. I mean, how gracious and merciful God is. And then are you disregarding this narration? I mean, what an important narration that is, and you're heedless and you're blundering, walking away from it. Do you make it your business? Is this your priority? This is what you want to do, that you disbelieve. It's just not a carelessness or anything. This is your intentions. You make it your business. Like if somebody bothering you and they just always want to give you a hard time or something, and you said, do you make it your business to do that? You always find excuses to hurt me or something like that. In a similar way, God is saying, do you make it your business that you disbelieve? When the time comes, like all the signs and everything, you continuously, this is your job to reject God's blessing, God's commandments and everything. When the time comes and your soul reaches your throat, and this is the one who is going through this can only see that. As the righteous, they observe that, or somebody who disbelieves, they can only see their soul, how it's reaching their throat, but they're not able to tell somebody else at that time that what's happening to them. I mean, have you visited somebody somewhere, this phenomena that happening, that God talked about in the previous verses, the predetermined death and all that. So this is slowly God is bringing back. I mean, how awesome this surah is. The surah, the oath, and then God is talking about, do you not see? I mean, we live in this world like we're gonna live forever. Like there's no, I mean, we make big deals and we do this and we are not thinking that, am I gonna be enjoying all this or not? And when the soul reaches toward you, look around, you know, in fear probably, that what's happening. As we know, the righteous is the angels come and they invite them to go to heaven. But this is God talking about, because God, I hear the verse previous is about the disbeliever. So this is about the disbeliever, how their life is comes to an end. You will then look around. We are closer to it, your soul. God is closer to our soul than we are closer to our soul. As we know, the soul is part of God's breath that God breathed into the Adam. So this is, this is another something to be happy about, that the part that I made is from God. That is something to be joy about. That my inner, the true myself is part of God. That in itself is an awesome thing to be cherished about. And then God is saying, because it's part that, so God is closer to it. If it is true that you do not owe any accounting, okay, if you think that there's no day of judgment, if you think that whatever you're doing is you are doing it, you have created yourself, like God talked about the semen and all that. Did you do it? So if you did it, why don't you restore your soul now? Your part of your life is ending. I mean, have you gone to like a graveyard? Have you gone to like a hospital, an ICU bed, people they are leaving this world? Uh, have you ever talked to them? You know, how they feel? You know, something to ponder upon. I mean, if you have a loved one or someone is in the hospital, it'd be a good time to go visit them. And they may be happy that you came to visit them, bring them flowers, something, but you inside your heart is thinking, I came for myself. You know, okay, I came to see you, but inside you're thinking that I came for myself for some education, how this life, how the life cycle is. And then nobody can restore it. I mean, there's so many people in the hospitals that they start breathing or something happen and they code them, but some of them their time is end. Nothing you can do to stop their you know, from them dying. This is the reality of this world. If if he is the one, now here God is talking about the three categories this surah started with. If he's the one who close to me, the elite of the elite, then joy, flowers, and gardens of bliss. That's the elite of the elite. And then if he is the one on the right, the middle heaven, the lower heaven, peace is the lot of those on the right. Yeah. And just in one nutshell, God is saying they will be in peace. There's a lot of those in the right. And here, flower gardens and everything. But if he's the one of the disbelievers, the strayers, then an abode of inferno and burning in hell. This is an this is the absolute truth. Now God is enforcing this is the absolute truth. This is bound to happen. There's nothing, no doubt about it. And if you have, uh, if you don't believe in this, then things are in front of you. You can look into it and examine it. But this is the absolute truth. And I mean, even just we talked about the death. I mean, if you have any question, have you met anybody who's maybe some people live 120 130 years, but that's pretty much it. You can go to graveyard and you look at people, how many years, average is 70 years, 80 years. That's it. That's pretty much it. Nobody lives forever. This is the absolute truth, and what is lying on the other side is the absolute truth. And then God is saying, you shall glorify the name of your Lord the great. Again, you know, God talked about the blessings, water, rain, and everything, and then God talked about you shall glorify the name of your Lord. And again, God is saying that you shall glorify the name of your Lord, the great. So these are basic the understanding that God is teaching us. There's nothing hidden in it, mashallah. So inshallah, at this point, I'll stop the. I think that's where the surah ends, 96, and we can open the discussion of the questions and comments, inshallah. Thank you.
MashaAllah, thank you.
MashaAllah, praise God.
Thanks, Adam. Mashallah. For the
Praise
Quran
God.
study. Great.
MashaAllah. Thanks, Adam.
MashaAllah, praise God.
So I wanted to comment on verse 72 about the fire and the trees. 71 and 72. Like you said, God created the fuel, and I mean, God is the one who controls everything, and if He can use it to people's benefit and use it for destruction too, for punishing the people as well, and then Also, it's interesting that these fires that start, they are also, I mean, to a lot of people, they think that they see like forests go on fire, and they think that, this is necessarily just bad for the environment. I mean, it is definitely very bad for breathing, especially if you're sensitive to smoke and stuff. But at the same time, it also, has its own scientific reasons for providing a lot of different types of nutrients to different organisms when it burns, and it generates new life from that as well. Um, but I guess at the same time, like I'm just thinking about like the magnitude of the fire that is fires that are burning right now in California, for example. That shows like how much fuel is packed in one of those trees. Like there is I don't know how many million acres of forests have burned in the last week or so, and it just continues to burn, and the fires are so powerful. So I mean, all of these are by God's leave, and it says we rendered it a reminder and a useful tool for the users, and so like you said, I mean, not just it is used to create fire, but all these trees and plants when they go and decompose, for I mean for millions of years they have, and that's what provides us with natural gas and fuel and petrol and all these other you know uh, sources of energy as well, including coal, etc. So these are all God's blessings, mashallah. And then I also wanted to comment on verse 75, where it says that God says that only the sincere can understand the Quran. And we know that the Quran is, represented by the number 57 because of the two Q initial surahs have 57 Qs in them, and they add up to be, both of them add up to be 114. So 57 being, representative of the Quran with the initial Q. If God says in verse 75, I swear by the positions of the stars. So if you look at the positions of the stars, there are, God uses has allowed these positions to be there for us in order to be guided, God says, for navigation. And these positions of these stars actually called the navigational stars. If you actually look at them, they're actually 50. They're actually exactly 57 navigational stars. You can look them up on Wikipedia. So I think that is interesting. And then also the fact that it says that only the sincere can understand the Quran. Uh, I mean, this is important because a lot of times you hear this argument from people who want to have the superficial unity, where they say, okay, well, this is your understanding, you understand this way, and this is his understanding or her understanding, and let's just all be together, But God says only the sincere can understand the Quran, and we know that the hypocrites will be prevented from understanding the Quran, so they're bound to have no access to the Quran, and they will always come up with wrong understandings, and these so-called wrong understandings are telltale signs for us to know that who the sincere are, and because if you look at also another verse in the Quran, uh, it says in Surah 11, verse 119, only those blessed with mercy from your Lord will not dispute the truth. Let me read the verse before that. It says, why were we created? Surah 11, verse 118. It says, had your Lord will, all the people would have been one congregation of believers, but they will always dispute the truth. Only those blessed with mercy from your Lord will not dispute the truth. This is why he created them. The judgment of your Lord has been already been issued. I will fill hell with jinns and humans altogether. So God, I mean, it's only God's mercy that only those who are blessed by God, you know, who are the believers, they will not dispute the truth, and everyone else, God says they will always dispute the truth. That's it.
Yeah, mashallah. The surah number 3, verse 7, it also says the same thing as God says that He sent down to you this scripture containing straightforward verses, which constitute the essence of the scripture, as well as multiple meanings or allegorical verses. Those who harbor doubts in their hearts will pursue the multiple meanings verses to create confusion and to excrete a certain meaning. None knows the true meaning, therefore, except God. And those who
Extricate,
those,
extricate.
extricate, sorry. And to, so thank you for clarifying that, and to extricate certain meanings. None knows the true meaning, therefore, except God, and those well founded in knowledge. They say, we believe in this. All of it comes from our Lord. Only those who possess intelligence will take heed. MashaAllah, I mean, this straightforward God is talking about. If you harbor doubts, that's why we have so many different tafsirs and other meanings and all the multiple meanings. And mashallah, this is a great blessing to be born in the time of our, existing on this earth, to have a Quran that is translated through God, through Messenger of the Covenant by God, which is just straightforward. And this, the verse starts with containing straightforward verses. And how awesome that is that God talks about this. And after a few verses later, God is going to give us the true Shahada from God, that La ilaha illallah, basically. And if you deny all that, then, we have been there. Verse 3:7, we have seen in our life confusion upon confusion, confusion upon confusion, always like running after different meanings and asking 10 people, can you explain this? What does this mean? What does that mean? Looking to tafsir. But if you come wholeheartedly, God will make it easy, mashallah.
I
I'm sorry, go ahead.
question just to clarify. In verse 56, 61, it says, from substituting new generations in your place and establishing what you do not know. Does it say substituting, or does it say from establishing new generation in your place and establishing? Just wanted to.
I think it says substituting.
Okay.
Yeah. From substituting new generations in your place and establishing what you do not know.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, mashallah, verse 60, God's talking about the death, and we know that's going to happen to everyone, and then nothing can stop us, and then the next generation comes in, and the cycle continues over and over. I just want to stress out this verse 3:8 that was after 3:7, and this is a very important dua that we genuinely ask. We should ask God that our Lord, let not our hearts waver. Now that you have guided us, shower us with your mercy. You are the granter. So coming to submission, or thinking that this is it, no, we have to continuously work hard until the end. Otherwise, you will be drifting away. As we know that if you're going in one direction, if you don't have GPS or something, slowly, you'll start drifting away from your direction. Like if you're in the ocean, So this verse is like, routine basis. We should pray to God that keep us on the right path, which we say in the 17 times in the Salat. Mashallah. Thank you.
Any other comments? Anyone?
I have a comment, inshallah. So 5675 says, I swear by the positions of the stars. This is an oath. If you only knew, that is awesome. And the footnote talks about our universe, the smallest and innermost of seven universes, contains a billion galaxies, a billion trillion stars, spanning billions of light years. These uncountable decillions of heavenly bodies maintain their orbits in a divinely controlled precision. The more we learn, the more we realize how awesome this oath is. And see Appendix 6. So, as we know, Appendix 6 talks about uh, seven universes and our universe being the smallest one, and then how many galaxies are just there, and all the actual physical span of each universe is just, and God in very strong words talks about, like, how else God would tell us the awesomeness, um, that if we don't know God's qualities, we really cannot, pay that kind of reverence towards God, and our worship will be kind of empty, lack something if we cannot ponder upon God's qualities. Um, so, and when God says, "I swear by the position of these stars," what God is swearing upon something. Obviously, you swear upon some awesome reality, and we already can verify. The scientists know that, like about the galaxies and stars. Obviously, we have explored quite a bit of our, quite a bit of space wherever we can go by now, and they can calculate on base of, whatever they see, that how vast is the universe. So God swear by many things in the Quran, by the night, by the dawn, and then God talks about the positions of the stars, that how each and every star, you know, is not just swimming around and, is just has no orbit, or everything is just precisely constructed and with knowledge of which is beyond human comprehension. So God talks about the awesomeness of these stars and swears by the position of them, because it is scientifically, we know the fact. It is a fact. When you know this is a fact and how they are positioned, it's not a random act of nature. Like, look at just our planet, Earth, and all the its movements, and its spinning around this sun, and the position of moon and all that, and that's how the whole universe is positioned. With the all these stars are positioned in a specific manner. Billions, trillions, billion trillions of galaxies. So that is to tell us that God, there is a God behind all of this, and how awesome is this? So we have to really reflect upon it in order to worship God alone. Like, then we say, who else can be a God beside God? Who else can be even close to God? That we reverence human beings, dead bodies, and saints and prophets and messengers more than God. And what a gross blasphemy is that? Just wanted to, reflect upon the fact that God is swearing by the positions of the star, and that this is a note. If you only knew, that is awesome. So the Quran is is a book of truth, and God is telling us about all of His marvels, and which we can verify. You know, um, and now with the Quran's mathematical miracle, we can verify that, and all the awesome miracles in previous times. MashaAllah. Sorry for dragging it long. I'm a bit tired. Thank you.
No, Masha Allah. It's a good comment. Also, when you look at these stars, like you said, they're not just freely moving around. They're following their own orbits. So if you were to predict, we know the world will end in 2280 AD, but if it was supposed to continue, you could calculate exactly, like, 100 years from now, where each one of those stars would be, precisely, because they're all following a certain pattern. So they're all following God's laws and that God has set in place, so they're submitting to God. And this is part of God's
What?
awesome power, mashallah.
Yeah, exactly. Like certain star, how at certain time of the year, or how many years later, and certain stars will be aligned, and what
Hmm.
position they will be, or certain comet even will be coming by after so many years, near the Earth. It's all calculated. Yeah, very scientific, and they don't crash in each other. It's just subhanallah.
Yeah, mashallah. So if you look at the Earth, how it's tilted a little bit on its axis. If it was straight and just spinning around the sun, and the equator is going to be always in front of the sun, and the part of people who live in the equator will always have summertime. But because of the angle because it's tilted, so that's why we have four weathers. So we get to enjoy winter, we get to enjoy spring and fall, summer. And so these are God's blessing upon it is how many things you can call it at random, or what a coincidence. How many things? If you like keep rejecting, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? Another thing to mention is that there is on YouTube there is a record. You know how dominoes, you place one in a safe distance from the other, and then you drop one domino, and they all start falling. So I think the record is about 800,000 Legos on YouTube. I saw not even a million Legos. So it took them such a long time to place each Lego in a precise place, and they have flags and they have like parks, a big area. And when they started the Lego to fall, it took like how many, several minutes, 15, 20 minutes or half an hour. All the 800 Legos was like fallen and they were done. And this is not even million. We have 400, 300 billion stars in our galaxy. And these are not stationary like dominoes. These are spinning around, going around the black hole. I mean, just imagine the greatness of God that we can even beat 1 million mark on the dominoes. This is 300 billions. And each billion has 1,000 millions. I mean, our brain just starts crashing. Look at all these huge numbers, mashallah. Thank you.
Wow.
And if you look at the Earth from outside, even outside of a galaxy, it will be like a size of a dust, not even a dust. In that tiny dust, all the people have lived from Adam up to now. And all the people, the fighting and running after money, and all the tiny speck, all the millions of people claiming this is my land, and all that stuff is happening on the tiny planet, which is invisible from space, within our galaxy. And this is what we die for. This is what we run after. And that on that tiny, but God has massive area for us to live. But this is how narrow and small human mind is. It does not see the big picture. It sees a little tiny dust particle.
So I also wanted to comment on verse 82, the verse that says, "Do you make it your business that you disbelieve?" Masha Allah, and I really like your comment there because it really shows the dedication that people put in to go to hell, and how they make it their business to deviate themselves and to deviate others. And people actually strive with their money and their life. They dedicate it, and they insist on going to hell, and they think that they are doing something righteous. But really, a lot of people. This shows that God does not put a single soul to hell, and God wants people to be guided, but people insist on going to hell, and they insist on disbelieving.
That they are so dedicated to this. This is like they're like one of the most important thing in their life, to disbelieve. The wording that God is using so precise, Mashallah. All I can share you, Dia, because I've been, my personal experience, I can share you that 20 years
Mm-hmm.
in healthcare, working in ICU, and very close to these people and looking at their eyes. I mean, I have experienced so much that maybe that's where, I mean, I talk about a lot this death stuff, because I like daily routine. It was that coding people, and then bringing the crash carts in the room, and they're, on their borderline, and trying to save them, and all that stuff, seeing in their eyes desperation, like looking at us, save me. It's just so much emotions have built in. I mean, no matter how much they tell us that, oh, this is your job, don't get emotionally involved, but it's just so hard, especially when you're on the religious side. You just cannot ignore the fact this is the true reality. If you don't believe in God, then you will be in some kind of that situation one day, where you're desperate to be saved. Family members are crying and they're desperately want. I mean, all this so much stuff that goes on in the hospital. Face to face is just pretty horrible. To ignore or something.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's the good a good benefit for working in healthcare. You know, for me, that was the reason why I didn't want to be in healthcare. You know, it's like seeing people, going through suffering. But I guess now that I see it, based on how you're explaining it, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a blessing actually. I mean, you're lucky if you're on the religious side and you're close to this kind of environment. That really pushes you. Many times I feel like sad when I'll see somebody who's like 90-year old and in the hospital and they're just watching song. I mean the watching sport and power on ends. I'm like, they could be this time could be used for such a valuable thing. I mean, how far are you going to go? Like wasting time, wasting time. I mean, I'm not against sports or anything, but like at least we have
No,
to come
yeah,
into
yeah,
reality.
of course. Yeah,
That
this your last moments,
last moments now,
yeah.
but no. I mean, you have a lot of emotional. Like the wife will be like, his wife will be like holding your hand. Please save my husband. Please save this. I mean, you are such
Your
an
hands?
environment. Yeah, I mean, sometimes they're
Oh,
like old couple, and they were like, please save my father's. Please
okay.
save my. I
As
mean,
long as they're old, I guess that's okay.
I mean, that's time you don't think about anything else. Honestly. You
I'm
just
just
you
kidding.
are just surrounded with emotions, and you're like as a submitter, and you like and they're holding their idol worship beliefs in their hand, whether it would be anything like a statue or something, different religion people, and then what, I don't know what to do, man. That these are this is not what we're here for. I mean, at that moment, you can't even preach them or something. Pretty much like it's very emotional, honest to be honest with you. It's for a religious
Mm,
person to be in that environment day in and out. Like nowadays, the
mm-hmm.
COVID is in it, and you see a lot of people with the respiratory issues and can't breathe and this and that. It just sometimes overwhelms you. I mean, regular people. I see the other nurses and other doctors. They just
Mm-hmm.
they just go in and take it as a job. They come out a lot of them laughing. But when you're so close to death, then you have different feelings. You know the
Mm-hmm.
reality
Yeah,
that's
I
on the other
think I think
side.
nurses spend more time with the patients than other people.
Oh
You know,
yes,
and the
definitely.
medical.
They are the one
Yeah.
attached to that. They're the like the
Yeah.
CPU of the system because everybody coming to the nurses, the respiratory doctors,
Mm-hmm.
everyone there. That's the communication channel they have. But people are healers. I see people come in and they visit their relatives, and somebody dies or something. They praise, and they leave. But not thinking that we're gonna be in that laying on that bed someday. It's this is the reality. So maybe I should take heed. I mean, the belief that you've been following all your life, and you've been excited when you were young. Okay, this is my belief. This is my God. This is my God. He's gonna protect me. But when your time reaches, why is sadness? That's the question. One should ask, why I'm sad then? If this is my God that I'm going to meet, I should be happy at this moment that this is the time I'm going to meet. But I am afraid. I'm scared. I'm desperate for life. There's something wrong with the picture. A big, big problem.
Yeah, God says that verse. Uh, God says they will never long for it.
Yeah.
Because of what they have committed.
Yeah.
They know what they have done. So
You can see the fear in people's eyes.
I think the worst thing is when people are committing idol worship and they believe that they are going to be the elite of the elite, and they'll have mentions and stuff, and they end up, when they leave, then they realize that all that they have ever done is all nullified. I think
Yeah.
that's like the scariest thing. At least the disbelievers know that they have not done anything, but the people who think that they are believers and were hypocrites and idol worshippers, and they think that they're God's chosen people, and then they realize that everything they did was wasted.
Yeah, disbeliever, they don't do anything, but those who say commits, they say that they are a religious person, and they spend so much their life devoting to those idols, not knowing they're doing actually harm to themselves.
Yeah, I think I I don't feel sorry for these people, but of course, it is a sorrowful, situation for them that, for example, people who are so close to being monotheist submitters, and then they believe that the Quran is not enough for them, and they uphold another source besides Quran, any other source besides Quran, like for right now, for example, people who say they're submitters, but they uphold, some teachings of Rabbi Judah, or some hadith, about circumcision or things like that. I mean, that's all it really takes for Satan to make a claim at you, because that proves that you're committing idol worship based on Surah 6, verse 114. So that's all that it takes. You do that, and you have proven against yourself that you're an idol worshiper, and then all your works would be nullified. So I think for those types of people, I think it's the worst thing, because they believe that they have, knocked out so many different idols, but then there is this one idol that is like, hidden in their sleeve, you know, and it takes them so easily. But it's a pity that so many of these people are actually being claimed like as a group. I guess it's not unusual, like for example, when you see the history, with the people who added the two false verses, majority of these people didn't really deserve to have the pure Quran, and so majority of them, they were deprived, and we didn't have the pure Quran for 1400 years. For so many millions of people, they didn't have access to it, and so we see that, you know, uh, there's so many people now that have proven themselves to be insincere as a result of this, and they don't have access to the Quran anymore, and their works would be nullified as a result.
The Messenger of Covenant explains the greatness of God is so awesome that if you idolize somebody, it's like putting like a virus. If it's like a very powerful king, and you associate a tiny virus to that king, and he said that doesn't even justify it. It's far, the situation is far worse than that. I mean, a virus to a king. This is the Almighty God, and associating anyone with Him. That's why when we, on the Day of Judgment, people will realize how bad idol worship was. I mean, angels already declared on the previous sin that send them to hell. They already understand. I mean, this is God's mercy that we are here to those who want to be saved.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me of the video by the Messenger of the Covenant, where he talked about how, I said at this conference,
Yeah.
Satan, especially in this conference, he said Satan will be allowed to represent his point of view, and he said if you listen to him, he said you deserve to believe if you believe him. People will come to divert you and do all sorts of tricks to try to make you uphold another source besides Quran, and if you listen to them, and you believe them, then you deserve to believe them. But it's very clear, like he said, if it's not in the Quran, we don't believe it, we don't accept it. It may or may not be true, but we do not believe it. So I mean, if people can adhere to that, in these tough times, like obviously they will be saved, but majority of the people won't. So we know that the majority is destined to be doomed anyways, and the majority of people do not believe without committing idol worship. So it's really very fortunate for anyone to not idolize besides anyone besides God, or anything besides God, and uphold the truth. And yeah, that's what I want to say.
If you have seen the Terminator movie series, it's sort of like that. First Terminator movie was in the Arnold Schwarzenegger himself was a Terminator, and then so this guy he's a protector. So he tells Sarah that something like that the resistance. The war is happening in the future. So they send these Terminators to kill the leader John Connor from becoming into alive. So they kill the resistance in the past. So they send this Terminators, and one of the important things he says that the resistance could not have been sent alone without a savior, a protector. It's a matter of time which one of them will get her first, or him. So we are basically come to this world in that kind of situation. That we have a companion who want to destroy us, and we have a message of God who wants to protect us. But choice is ours. Which side we choose, Masha Allah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think these people who think circumcision is one of our rights would be able to say to God on the day of resurrection that we followed Quran alone? And like if you ask them, where in the Quran you find this information from? No answer.
We also have some interesting comments on YouTube. I know that if you want to read them, maybe.
Can you read it, Solomon?
Uh, sure. There's a lot of them actually, because I just started looking at them. But
I
I
asked
think I
about
think
it
going
clearly. I
go,
think
no worries. Going to the more recent ones, they say that yes, that is just funny from Brother Akko Kurt. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Says it's like a man says, "I will swim through ocean." Yes, idols inflict them with hardship, misery, and pain. Like recently, Torah. What is funny is circumcision is in the Torah, where the scene of Jesus is there. I think Jesus' birth, and he says the same scene is in the Quran, and these two scenes contradict. Now, which will you believe, Qurans or Torahs? And then he says, "Pardon me, but not Torah, but Bible." And he says, now they use Torah, Bible, and Submitters perspective. Third says, look to the Quran for religious matters. For the other two, Quran says, don't use them. Use this holy scripture. God says, I will. Note he says, I will increase their disease. This is second surah. So just think about that, what we can do for them. Um, so I just wanted to add to that I mean, of course, reading the submitter's perspectives is not wrong. Um, Everything that we see in the submitter's perspectives is from, around the time of the messenger, is from the messenger of the covenant, and the message was given to him in stages, and anything that was revealed to him later was subsequently, fixed. But obviously, when it comes to the other scriptures, like the Torah and um, the Bible in general, the Messenger of the Covenant has already explained to us the whole mechanism by which you can detect the truth from falsehood. He has given us the final scripture, the ultimate reference. So if it goes against what's in the Quran, we know that it's from Satan, and that's true for circumcision definitely as well, because it's not in the Quran. The story, the account of the covenant of Abraham that is given in the Quran is totally different from the covenant that is given to Abraham in the Bible. So it's a completely falsehood, you know. Um, but obviously, at this point, it's also, people's egos that they idolize, and other idols that they follow besides God, and they attribute it to the messenger. But this is just another way for Satan to repel the people from the truth. And really, like you said, there's not a lot we can do for these people. We can just explain to them the truth, provide them the proofs. But then, obviously, people who are stamped as disbelievers, we cannot do anything to help them in any way.
I think one of the questions is, who is Muhammad to be more than God's slave or and servant, and what is bad about being God's prophet, slave, and servant? So, few places I think God says that He chooses among His servants, messengers, and prophets. So basically, we all are. I think those who obey God is become the servants of God, and among them, they're not like special people that God created as a prophet and messenger. God chooses among His creations from His servants those who fit for job, and they get the rank of they get become prophet and messenger. Basically, messenger is the one who delivers the message. That's their job is.
Yeah, Masha Allah, that's true. Also, I see other comments. Oh, okay. There's one that says, "And did you watch PK again? Would you comment on that movie if you watched? And by the way, Ollie Big Brother, I would like to narrate a story about my home village. My home village. Our village is in Turkey, Malatya. This village, until 2012, had very much water, but after that year, we lost it. Don't ask me how, because I really neither understood nor I know. It's just gone because all my family's minds were busy all the time when they came to the village with their prophet, uh, so they didn't give zakat. They never mentioned God except the traditional things. They weren't praising God for giving them all this. And so these farms they had become a source of hardship and misery first, I guess. That was the first warning. Then after that, in 2014, they began to lose water slowly. Finally, in 2019, I went to my home village to see the situation. After 3 years, with my own eyes, it was just miserable. No animal lives there now. They have only 3 or 12. Three. They have only 3 or 12. Three. See the 3 or 12. 3 or 12. Three in a huge farm. They have two less water for being self-sufficient for that farm. They now give more money and more money just to be able to stay there 1 or 2 weeks. In short, be thankful. Otherwise, God is the seer, uh, uh, avenger. Yes. But after all this, they say to Prophet Muhammad, God's beloved, how disgusting is that? So is Muhammad to be more than God's slave and servant? And what is bad about being God's prophet, slave, and servant? Jesus was, although he had unbelievable miracles, but they never said or thought such disgusting things. Okay, let's this. Any other comments? Any off-topic questions? Anyone?
Now, I just want to say that I watched that PK movie before, but I watched the game, and it just sheds a lot more light. It's not the full story, but is at least makes majority of people go in the right direction where they can discover God, mashallah.
Okay, so I guess if nobody else has any more comments or questions, maybe we can conclude the study, God willing. Thank you all for joining us. God willing, our next study is going to be on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, and I think, God willing, I'll be the teacher. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for translating.